Welcome to the NoPo Podcast, your home for non-political news, with your hosts, NoPo founder Vera Gibbons and media commentator Mitch Roschelle. NoPo, news without the noise.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NoPo Podcast. I'm Vera Gibbons, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Mitch Roschelle and John Iannuzzi. Each week, we highlight the best mix of non-political news stories and bring them to you on a number of online platforms. We're also on a bunch of local radio stations. John will tell us a little bit about what those stations are and where to find them. But I wanted to open the show by saying hello, everyone, and goodbye, flu. As you very well know, we are in the middle of peak flu season. And guess what? The flu has virtually disappeared from the U.S. Far lower levels than anything we've seen in decades. So I guess the new habits that we've adopted, wearing masks, social distancing, virtual this, that, and the other, hand washing obsessively, appears to be paying off. Speaking of which, the U.S. now has given a total of nearly 67 million vaccine doses, a third one from J&J, could be in play as soon as next week, just as this episode of NoPo airs. So that is encouraging, and the COVID crisis continues, but at least we see that there is some light at the end of the tunnel as we round out the month of February and see that flu is not joining forces with COVID and causing additional havoc. John, do you want to tell everyone where else we are and what other platforms? Because I didn't do a very good job of explaining where we are and where people can find us.
Well, listen, if you're in New England, you're in luck, because from Boston to Vermont to Connecticut, you can hear us. NewEnglandRadio.net, WIRW in Boston, WBTN in Vermont. We're everywhere, Vera.
Good to hear us. Thanks to you.
Yeah, well, I'll put a link to some of the stations in the comment section on our YouTube version.
Good. And Mitch, I know we have a special guest waiting in the wings. If you want to jump right in and bring her on in, we will await her arrival.
It would be my pleasure. So I first met our next guest, Ronica Cleary, about 2 years ago, but we can timestamp that with the birth of her most recent child, because it was before I think you were even pregnant with your most recent child. Ronica was a reporter in Washington, D.C. on a local D.C. affiliate, covered the White House. We won't be able to talk to her about that stuff because it falls into the domain of political, but maybe we can tease out an interesting story from past White House administrations. In any event, we met at Fox Business Network about 2 years ago, and we've been chatting ever since. She has her own PR firm, which she will tell us about, and she'll plug away. And she sent us some guests for the NoPo Podcast. So the quid pro quo of sending us guests is we put you on the air as well. So for that, we thank you. And Ronica, welcome to the NoPo Podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I am glad that you took the guest, and I'm happy to come on. Thank you.
Well, and what the audience will only see in the 4x4 shot that will take a terrible picture and post it along with the YouTube version of the podcast is Ronica got all dressed up for us. What you'll notice if you look at the other three of us, it's I think none of us have showered in days. So thanks, Ronica, for not only joining us but for gussying up the place, because
how you look is how you feel, right? So normally
then we feel like crap
and wear my pajamas to daycare drop off. So today just felt like a day to dress up.
Do you have a pajama dress? Like everyone down here is wearing the pajama dresses. I know they're hot right now, and it's like they wear them to bed and they wear them at daytime and they wear them to lunch and they wear them to dinner and then they put them on and wear them to bed.
No,
do you have one?
That sounds really uncomfortable, a pajama dress. I don't think I would like that. So no, I don't. I'm like a live in yoga pants 24 hours kind of gal.
Yoga pants and do yoga, or yoga pants just for comfort?
No yoga. Do yoga pants because they have a nice tight, like gut sucking stomach for this new mom of three, just had my third in the middle of COVID. So not going to the gym, like not getting the time I need to exercise. So that's why I wear yoga pants all the time.
Apropos of gym, I noticed on my American Express bill that the gym that I've belonged to for years, that I had frozen my membership, charged me for the month of February. And earlier in the month, they had emailed me, come on back, do this, do that. We'll throw in this, we'll throw in that. And I emailed back kind of smugly saying, when you relax your draconian restrictions, I'll return to the gym. And they charged me. And so, but here's the interesting wrinkle. They'll only freeze it for another 2 months. And then after that, if I want to continue to freeze my membership, they're charging me 25% of my monthly dues, if you will, to freeze the membership on each month that I freeze it. And if I go beyond a certain period of time, then they're going to charge me 50%. So I guess this is really hurting the gyms amongst other businesses, but they're doing that to survive. I'm not judging. I mean, I would too if it was my business, find some way. But I bring it up because March was the last time that I stepped foot in that gym. So it's 11 months after.
What draconian restrictions are you talking about?
I'm wearing a mask. I just wearing a mask and exercising to me are counterintuitive. And in particular, in a spin class, like if you're walking around the gym and you're lifting weights, and I've been to the place I'm staying at in Florida, I've been to the gym like every other day and I have no problem wearing a mask. But if you're, doing a spin class and your heart rate's at 160 and you're huffing and puffing, it's really hard to do that wearing a mask. And if the class holds, 50 people and there's only 10 people in the class and we're more than socially distanced and the lights are off, like, lighten up with the mask thing. I
tried to double up, which is one of the more recent suggestions. And I almost had an anxiety attack in Stop and Shop. I literally felt like I was going to pass out.
Oh,
I couldn't breathe.
You were waterboarding your
COVID because you can't breathe. Like that's why it's stopping the spread with the two masks.
Oh, and with the glasses, I couldn't see. Yeah, it was bad. I really was uncomfortable. But I tried it.
You were Mr. Magoo walking around the supermarket looking for vegetables.
I finally found N95 masks. So I feel like those are the ones they always said actually work. So I don't worry about a double mask. I just use those because I just can't imagine, double, triple masking. But I'm with you, Mitch. I don't really know. I feel like how the gym should handle it. I don't begrudge them, but I don't really want to work out with a mask on. So I just haven't gone back. And we just bought a Peloton and I have a feeling I might just end my membership, which is a little bit heartbreaking because I guess I gave my business to Peloton. It's not like I'm still contributing to the economy, I guess in that way, but I don't know if it's going to stick around. I just can't imagine running on a treadmill, like doing my workouts the way I did and like double masking it. I just don't know how you do it. But then I'm sure people will listen to this and say, you can do it. Like you're part of the problem. I don't want to, this is a NoPo podcast, but I hear you is my point.
Why'd you pick, I'm curious because we've talked about Peloton a ton. No pun intended there. Why'd you pick Peloton over some of the other products that are out there? Because Peloton has competition now.
Right.
I'm curious why you picked
I didn't pick it. My husband did. I didn't even want it because I like the gym. I like the community. I like the social aspect of it. And it just got to a point where he was like, we're getting this, like we need this. And so I kind of washed my hands of it and I was grumpy about it. And I just got on it yesterday and I said, oh, I kind of like this.
There's a new Peloton treadmill that's like less expensive than there are other stuff, less expensive as in $2,500. But
I know. Well,
I suppose if you're spending all that money on the gym and doing all that, it's probably going to be a bit of a wash. But yeah, going to the gym now doesn't interest me at all. I'm a little concerned about bone density and all this other potential stuff that could happen because I haven't been to the gym, osteoporosis. I'm not doing strength training at home. I'm just running and biking and doing cardio, which is great for weight management, but it's not good for strength.
You know what's interesting? Not that the audience is going to care about our workout routines, but please indulge us, people listening in your cars driving around Vermont. The interesting thing is with COVID, when you do go to a gym and you're not in an exercise class, I think the types of things that we do in the gym have changed as well. Like, I don't sit in a machine in the gym. Like, I'm just worried about being around something that isn't totally cleaned. So I find one place, I don't leave from it. I take a flat bench that I can move up and down. I wipe it down myself with something, and I pick a whole bunch of weights and I just use those, dumbbells. I wonder if that's changing. And the reason why I mentioned that is something you could do at home. You can buy the bench at home. You can buy the, 5 to 50 pound dumbbells, have them at home. I just wonder if the gym itself is going to ever come back, because if we've all developed these new, if we didn't hanker to go to the gym for a year, and Ronica, I'm with you on the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
There's some things about the community aspect I like, but more often than not, it's the thing about the gym that I hate the most. But in any event, I wonder if we've developed our own new routine. I think we're creatures of habit. The gym was part of our habit. And if we've lost that element of our habit, will we ever come back to it?
I don't know. I mean,
that was a jump ball question that nobody took. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. To your point though, gyms have always been disgusting places, but I know this is really weird, but like, I kind of embrace that. Like, I have little kids. I would always just think like building up my immunity, like, let's see what happens, So I just worry if we're so afraid of that kind of space forever. I feel like that isn't probably good for like our microbiome and our immune systems. Like, we've got to embrace like the fact that living life is dirty and like touchy and feely eventually, like when we feel like the risk is something we can handle. And so I don't want to like not go to the gym again because it's gross. I want to like not go to the gym again because maybe my life is more efficient now. I just don't want that fear of like interacting and germs to somehow, like, that habit we've now developed over 12 months of that fear, is that now in us so much that's going to take years to just kind of have a normal, appropriate level of fear. I don't want to lose that. That's what I worry for. But I think I could maybe live without the gym. I don't know.
What's interesting is in this whole period of time that we're going to the gym or not going to the gym and trying to cope with the anxieties about its cleanliness, there are people that use something like a gym because they're rehabbing from something. So if you've had any kind of surgery or any kind of injury and you had to go to physical therapy, you were able to do so. And there hasn't been any big outbreaks linked to physical therapy. So obviously there's a way to let people do those types of motor activities and not have people get sick. So there's probably a happy medium. Speaking of physical therapy, somebody who's going to be going through a lot of it in the weeks and months to come is Tiger Woods. And I think we've all seen the horrific, car crash images. It's the second time he's been in a car crash in a little over a decade. I think 2009 was the last time that he was in a car crash. Horrific is probably the only thing to say. And when you hear things like Jaws of Life, when you hear things like if it was 2 inches in this direction or that direction, there would have been a fatality. So hearts and prayers go out to Tiger Woods. And the thing about the story, and I really want everybody's perspective, when the police commissioner chief, whoever he was that was doing all the pressers, said, this is an area that there have been a lot of accidents. Why hasn't something been done to, and I haven't driven on that road, and I don't know if there's signage at the yin yang saying slow down, caution, flashing lights, but when you have an area that is so prone to accidents that the police chief isn't surprised that there was an accident, that troubles me. Curious what
that troubled me. Of course, initially you jump to these conclusions when you see the horrific crash and the fact that he was speeding. You think, oh, was he on something? Why was he going so fast? He looked really weird at the presser a couple days before. I mean, there's that side. And then now they're saying, oh no, it was just purely an accident. And this is a road where a lot of accidents apparently happen. It's like, yeah, that is troublesome, Mitch. Yeah.
Ronica, so you've covered all kinds of stories in the field, driving in a news van. What's your sense on the coverage of this story? This is probably one of the most widely covered non-political stories, certainly of the week. That's why we're tackling it. But what's your sense just of watching it as a pedestrian without the hair and makeup, in the comfort of your own home, as opposed to standing next to a crash site? What's your sense of the coverage of the story?
Well, just one thing though about the road. It's funny. The thing I think about, how in the neighborhood, there'll be an intersection and you'll say, there has to be an accident here before someone does something about this, and then you hear, oh, there's been multiple accidents and nothing's been done about it. I think it does potentially raise some questions, but there's an interesting intersection in reporting when you're reporting on celebrity or fame. I think it changes the approach to the reporting. I think for some reporters, they ask fewer questions, and for some reporters, they ask more questions. I think it's a great example of when it's a little more challenging to remove bias from your reporting, no matter who you are, right? So if you are just a huge Tiger Woods fan and the thought of potentially like uncovering something nefarious or unsavory really makes you uncomfortable, you might just take the statement at face value more easily that like nothing was wrong here. If you really dislike him, if you haven't forgiven him for his past discretions, right? If you feel like that, you might dig a little deeper. And I just think when you watch coverage of celebrity, obviously we see it in politicians, but I just think we forget it transcends to celebrity coverage as well. So, if anything is uncovered that's maybe not what we expected or not what came out at first, I would be the type of person to be curious, like who's the one who did that reporting, right? Who is the one who was comfortable digging? And so I just think it's too soon to say. You also have just the vacuum of the president President Trump not being in office and COVID not being as, top heavy in the news. So I think you also just have reporters just thrilled that sounds grotesque, but like eager to have something to cover that is something that people are curious about. So I don't mean that in an insensitive way, but unfortunately news is a really ruthless and like cold business. And sometimes they do think about things like that.
Well, the expression, as nauseating as it is, if it bleeds, it leads, you saw play out. The thing that I find interesting, maybe you covered it in your response, but if you're covering a story, you have X number of seconds or whatever of live, and you have a package. In Tiger Woods, you have a ton of material for a package. As recently as him playing with his son and the father-son that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, to any number of hoisting trophies over his head. And you just don't have the facts. I mean, it's too early. The incentive to speculate is the thing that really just drives me crazy. Like early in any story, when the facts just aren't out there, I'm amazed at how much speculation there is with absolute immunity that, it's speculation.
Unfortunately, not having the facts is sort of irrelevant in the current state of news. It just doesn't matter. It's just whatever we can get out there as quickly as possible. Put a question mark at the end of the sentence and you protected yourself. I mean, it's a shame, but it's just who can get the story out first. And like I said, something as little as just turning it into a question, adding a word that just makes it a little speculative in the reporting, even though it's not supposed to be like that. You've saved yourself and you got it first to print, and people are just desperate for content and they want to speculate along with you, right? That's the thing we see with the way social media is. Everybody's a contributor. Everyone's a talking head. Like everybody wants to be a part of the conversation. So I don't even think, as much as people say they hate it, like that we only want the facts, we don't want all this opinion, I think people love it. Because they're a part of it, right? And it gives them a space to add that voice and to be also the opinion contributor on their social media feed. So yeah, it's frustrating, but you're in those newsrooms, you better have something ready for the 5 o'clock news. It doesn't matter what it is or how small it is. Like, you're slated in that show. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And God forbid they put a political spin on it, which is why we launched this podcast in the first place, because then tempers flare. There's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of hostility in the air. So hence the origins of the NoPo podcast. But in other news, speaking of non-political news, there is a new dating app called Snack, which is looking to attract Gen Z. Obviously, it's, there's plenty of apps out there, Tinder, Bumble, I don't know. There's a ton of them. And they work just by swiping left or right, whichever direction. I don't use them. But with Snack, you upload TikTok videos of yourself, and then a match is made when 2 users like the other person's videos. So it sounds like something that will appeal to that generation. It's not something that we would like. Right, Mitch? Also new and notable, the U.S. Postal Service's new radical-looking mail truck. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeti's got a new luggage line, which I like. Pepsi's got a new line of cocktail mixes, which I also like. And Dunkin' has added avocado toast to the menu. Does anyone want to comment on any of the?
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff. I'm digesting here.
It's a smorgasbord of topics. Ronica, any of those of interest? We'd love to get your perspective.
I don't really care about the Dunkin'. I mean, the avocado toast. I mean, it's it feels like late to the avocado toast party, right? But has anybody purchased the bag of bacon at Dunkin' Donuts? To me, that was the move that was so who came up with this idea? And I love you. It was just amazing. So I would probably.
I have bought the bag of bacon.
Me too.
Is it good?
Yes, of course.
It's very sweet. It's more kind of candy-ish bacon than it is.
Do they
hardcore.
Treat it with something? It's sprayed with something?
And it does crack me up, like a person is on the keto diet or the Atkins diet, getting the bag of bacon, but it's so not acceptable because it's clearly covered in a caramelized sugar or something, because Dunkin' couldn't just make some bacon and put it in the bag. They had to dunkify it. That's what they did to it. So it's pretty epic. But
I think I think they used the glaze from the glazed donuts and lightly misted it over the bacon. Listen, I think in the rock paper scissors game of food, bacon's gonna win every time. You put bacon up against any food item, and in the NCAA tournament isn't far away. So if you think about the brackets and head-to-head competition, bacon's going to make the Final Four in terms of any food. Avocado toast versus bacon. Bacon's going to win. I mean, it's not even close.
They have to have bacon avocado toast, and then you got everybody happy. We're going to Dunkin', hanging out with Ben Affleck with our iced coffee. That's what you got to do.
There's even bacon-scented candles now, so.
That sounds gross. I don't know.
Well, you know what's funny about that? So I've mentioned we're in Florida and we're doing some house hunting. And the thing in house hunting, and I don't know if any of the 3 of you have been house hunting in a while, and I'm sure the audience has, but the thing is realtors love to light candles, and play if the home has any kind of a sound system. It seems Sade is the lowest or highest common denominator of music that gets played in a house that you're thinking of buying, or some other kind of spa music. But one realtor had the Entenmann's crumb cake flavored candle. So it literally the house smelled like an Entenmann's crumb cake, which I thought was taking the game to a whole nother level. But now that I think about it, if they had the bacon scented candle, I think people would buy the home. If you walked into a home and it smelled like bacon, I think you're going to buy it. My thought. John, I know this.
I was just going to say,
conversation means nothing to you.
You drive out a certain segment of the population.
How big is your segment of the population?
John?
What's that?
Are you vegetarian?
We're actually vegan in this house.
Impressive. I have a son who's allergic to eggs. And so we have embraced a lot of vegan desserts or begrudgingly try to embrace them. My joke is like when you have an egg allergy in your house, you learn like how valuable eggs are to like making certain foods.
I will say it took a long time to figure out how to replace eggs, psyllium, applesauce sometimes. There are definitely ways around it.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're hoping he outgrows it. He's still in an age where he could, but that's the one thing I never expected when you think about like losing that food. You're like,
it's essentially all it's baked goods. Yeah. I mean, that's the big one. How old is he?
He'll be 3 in April.
Okay. And how did it manifest? Skin allergy?
Eczema. Yeah. He had really bad eczema. So we're hopeful though. His numbers went down a little on his last blood test. So they say he's moving in the right direction. So
is that something like certain other allergies that people can sort of, I'm going to use the term insensitively, but grow out of if they reintroduce the element into their diet over time? Like I know a lot of kids that are peanut allergic, there have been these therapies where they slowly introduce peanut oil. And then by like the age of 10, they've kind of rid themselves of the allergy.
So I think the therapy on curing an allergy is like, it really doesn't exist. What you've probably heard referenced is it's like an early exposure to the allergen within the first year. You teach the body not to attack the protein, the allergen, and then you're 80% less likely to be allergic to food if you've had that early and consistent exposure as a baby. But we did do early exposure with eggs, tree nuts, and peanuts, but because my son's eczema was so severe, I just don't think it worked. It's not 100% fixed, but once you are allergic, the recommendation, at least that's been given to us, is like to have zero exposure, and then to see if, through blood work every 6 to 8 months. But we do have him enrolled on a list at a study at UPenn to potentially see if they can like uncover cures. But right now, I don't believe there's any sort of cures. I'm not 100% sure. I don't live in a allergy household like a tree nut or a peanut, where I think it's a little bit, I think those allergies are slightly different, but
Ronica, think about it as an adult. When you go for like a flu vaccination, they ask, are you allergic to eggs?
Yeah, well, he's allowed to take the flu vaccine.
Oh, really?
Interestingly enough. So I had Benadryl ready, and I was but they said he could take it. So the unfortunate thing about allergies, and I've had a client for a long time who works in this space, so that's why I'm slightly more well-versed in it. She was my client before my son, had this allergy. So now it's personal. But there were years of really bad advice telling parents to never give their kids foods that are potentially allergenic. And what that did is that literally created a generation of Americans who had really bad food allergies, because what you need to do is you need to have that early exposure. And they actually saw in Israel, where they use peanut oil in cooking, that there's like no peanut allergies there. And so that sort of started to change the way we think about early exposure. But
Mitch, I was lactose intolerant most of my life, and growing up, my mom shoved ricotta cheese down my throat, and I had a stomach ache for 20 years.
So you cannot do it once you have the allergy. That's like really not. I don't believe that is recommended at all. And
Veronica, they just didn't care. I mean, at that point, it was this is what we're eating. This is what's for dinner.
Come on, I'm not a Cleary by birth. I am an Italian American. I would shove it down your throat too.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I'm going to make one comment on parenting and allergies, and to tell you what a stupid parent I am, and then we'll pivot. So when my twins were born and they were on formula, my kids ended up being on 2 different formulas because one was having sort of digestive issues. So one guy was on Similac and the other was on some other formula, which complicated things a little bit, but not a big deal.
Sure.
Years later, I mean, like one of my guys was diagnosed as being slightly lactose intolerant. And Debbie and I looked at each other going, they were on different formulas because he had that issue. The one formula was lactose based and the other one was lactose free. Like, you think we would have figured it out. Like if a pediatrician told us when they were like 12 weeks old to put him on this formula. Like, but we were continuing to jam milk down his throat. And whatever. So I think all parents kind of parent the way they were raised. And so Monagoat, getting jammed down your throat, Johnny, that's part of it. Veronica, you mentioned the word client in a sentence when we let you speak last. So I want to give you an opportunity before we sign off to tell our audience about your firm, Cleary Strategies, which I'm a big fan of. And then we'll say goodbye to the audience. But our goal on NoPo is to have fun and exciting guests, and you were certainly one of them. But we'd love to let our guests plug the things that they're passionate about. So tell us a little bit about your business.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm a publicist. I help put people on television. So I also obviously place clients on radio and podcasts like the NoPo podcast and print. But I worked in TV for a long enough time to understand the industry, to love it, to hate it, to have a really, confusing history and past with it. But I am really passionate about media, and I love working on this side of it. Being a former, on-camera person, I thought I might miss doing the on-air stuff, but I actually really love being behind the scenes, helping people understand, navigate, utilize media to their benefit, whether it's to promote their expertise, their cause, their mission. And my business is Cleary Strategies, and I am very passionate about it. And Mitch, sometimes my clients are on alongside you on all of your programming like you do. So it's just a ton of fun, and it is I fell into my passion. So it's great. Excellent.
So if you want to get a hold of Ronica, the best way to do it is to follow her on social media. She's got an A game in social media as well. And if you follow her and she follows you back, you can direct message her, and I'm sure you'll get a hold of her. It's funny that people like you in my life, how I communicate with people differs. Like, you and I could have a conversation. We probably have a conversation in Instagram Messenger, Twitter DM, text directly, or talking over the phone. Like, there's all these different ways of doing it. And, but you can certainly get a hold of Ronica. And once a month, she'll post the logo of all of the platforms that had her clients on in the previous month. And NoPo even made it a couple of months ago when we had one of our clients on.
And I put you on my website. I was like, we're updating it. We're adding that logo. And if you do want to find me on social media, at Ronica Cleary is me. And then I've got some Cleary Strategies accounts, but they're all connected through the at Ronica Cleary, which would be the best way. And I love to meet new people. I love people. I make this joke. I love strangers. I just love meeting new people. And the thing I miss most is meeting strangers at bars and restaurants and out. I just think people are fascinating, and Zoom kind of works, but man, I can't wait to get out there again. I just miss people, so thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. What a nice addition. Thank you for Mitch for lining that up. I mean, this is great.
My network of people includes folks like Ronica who help us book the NoPo podcast. So for that, we are grateful. So Ronica, thanks. John and Vera, always good to see you. Vera, unfortunately, my trip to Florida is coming to an end soon. You know what's interesting about Florida is we're closer geographically, you and I, than we've been in a year, basically, probably. I guess when you were in the city and I was in Westchester County, we were probably about as far away. But since we've been doing the NoPo podcast, you've been in Florida. And at the beginning of my trip, I said, I'll probably just get in the car and drive up and see Vera. No one leaves the county in Florida. I'm in Broward County. You're in Palm Beach County. It's I'm not going up there. A friend of mine got a hold of me and he said, I heard you're in Florida. He lives up in Vero and we're golf buddies. He said, you should come up and play golf. And I put it in Waze, and it was 2.25 hours to drive from where I am to Vero Beach. And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
He's not going to Philly from New York. I mean, that's
I'm not doing that. So Florida is a really, really big state. And if you've driven here, when you hit the welcome to Florida until you pull into, it's a long drive. You can go fast, but it's a long drive, which I'll be doing soon and loading up on beef jerky. So John, Vera, great to see you. Ronica, thanks again. And to our loyal and faithful audience, including those on 3 different radio stations, thank you for listening. And we will see you next week with another edition of the NoPo podcast, News Without the Noise.
He said you got the goods to make the big time, and then he puffed on his cigar. We'll make a killing, we'll get top billing, I'm gonna make